Do you want to start video editing but you have no idea where to begin? Well, this is the video just for you. Within this video we are going to cover how to import your footage into Adobe Premiere Pro, how to add it to your timeline, how to cut out any unwanted footage and trim it down to the perfect bits for your edit. We'll take a look at the audio settings and some effects and adjustments you can apply to get that perfect for your project, and we'll also look at adding music and sound effects as we go as well. Now before we begin, there will be many more guides coming to this channel all about the world of editing with tips and tricks along the way, so if that's your kind of thing, please do hit that subscribe button and like the video to help the channel out. Let's go! Okay, so here we are in Adobe Premiere Pro 2023. I've updated it to the latest version. You want to make sure that you do that so you're less likely to run into any issues. So I'm here in creating a new project. I've given it a little simple title up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and click create straight away. I don't tend to import any media at this stage. I'll show you the way that I do it. What you will usually find in Premiere Pro is that there are usually 3 or 4 different ways that you can achieve the same result of whatever it is you're trying to do. So you just need to work out which processes work best for yourself in your workflow. So here we have our blank canvas. Now if you want your workspace to look similar to mine, all you need to do is go up here to this little workspaces button, click on that and then select effects. That should make your UI look similar to this. You can also alternatively go over to window here, click on workspaces and find a similar menu, and you can customize things and move them around as you wish. It is possible to move things around wherever you see fit, so customize it to your will. However, if you do make any mistakes and want to get back, simply go back to the effects panel, click on that, and it will restore the workspace to its original settings. So fear not if you make a mistake. It's easy to do at the start. So when it comes to importing media, the simple way that I do it is I select my files from a folder on my hard drive. Here I've got some stock footage here. I'm going to simply select all those, drag them to the import section, and copy them into there. They are now available within this project, so I can simply drag them from there onto the timeline and they'll pop up there. You'll see they'll populate the screen, and also we'll now get our settings and our bars for our video footage at the top and our audio footage at the bottom. It is also possible to do this with audio files too, so for example with these sound effects here that we'll come back to later, we can just simply do the same process, drag and drop them in, and you'll see they populate as an audio file. Then you can simply drag them onto the timeline as you did with the video section and drop them wherever you see fit, and then you can of course move them wherever you want to. So the section you want to have active when you are editing your video footage is when you click on it, you will see that I've got the effect controls selected here, and the effects show up in the bottom there. So you've got your most basic ones that you'll find on all video footage that you import. You've got your scale, which will simply control the size of the footage, so you can shrink it or enlarge it as you see fit. If you do ever want to put it back to the beginning, you can just click the reset parameter button there, and that will restore the footage to its original settings. You've also got your position, so you've got your X and your Y axes, you can move them across. Now what I'm doing here is simply clicking on this button, and as I keep the mouse button held down, drag the mouse to the left or right, that will increase or decrease the parameter. You can also click on this and type in a number, and press enter, and that will move it. So if you know exactly where you want the footage to be, you can do it that way. And of course, click reset to get it back to the beginning. Now what we'll do is we'll edit these clips to get 2 clips side by side. So if you take our second clip there, what I'm going to do to trim it is to make it the same size, is you'll see this little red arrow with the line going backwards appears. So if I click now, if I drag that down to the same size as the original clip, and it will snap by default, I can let go. That clip is now the same length as the second clip. You'll notice that as I put that clip above the other one on the timeline here, the clip above will show above the clip below, so they will override each other. So what we need to do to make these clips show at the same time is to slide the clip on the top over to the right. So what we will do is go to position, over to the X axis, remember X is across, because it is across quite literally, and slide that over, and it will then make way for the bottom clip. There we go. So if you get that to around halfway across the screen, there we go. So we can now see both clips at the same time. Doesn't look very impressive, but there's things we can do to improve on that, and we'll dive more into that later on. Random sound effect. You can indeed rotate the clips too, so for example, if you wanted to rotate this by 90 degrees, simply type 90 in there, hit enter, and that will have rotated that clip by 90 degrees. So now you get a weird bit of sort of trippy kind of effect on that footage there. You can of course click and drag, and that will rotate it around as you see fit, so if you want it in a kind of diagonal fashion, you can do so. Okay, so what we will do now is combine these three bits of footage to make this little example you can see here on the screen, and in doing so I'll teach you a few more techniques. So to begin, we've got our three clips stacked on top of each other on the timeline, and they're all different lengths. So of course what you could do is you could just drag the clips here and make them the same length, or another way of doing it, say you've got a few clips stacked on top of each other like we have here, you could press C for cut, and you could press shift, and you see how the line pops up when I press shift there? So what I'm going to do now is click once. That's going to cut all those clips. As you can see, it's made a nice cut there. And I can simply just drag and highlight those two clips and then press delete, and that gets rid of those nice and quickly. So that would work really well if you had lots of clips of different lengths, and it'll save you a bit of time there. You want to always try and do things in the most efficient way if you can, and you will just pick tips up over time as you go and experiment with things. So do follow along with this if you can, if you've got some footage there. Doesn't matter what the footage is, it's just to get these tips kind of locked in your brain as we go. So we've got our clips now the same length. What we want to do is kind of see which one we want to go at the side and one on the top. So what we'll do, we've got these nice fish here, so it'd be good to kind of focus on those little orange fish. So I think we'll have that at the side, and then we've got this one here. This would be good to go along the top maybe. So we'll keep that on the top. What I'm going to do is kind of move this shot up, so we're going to use position. We're going to drag, not that way, we're going to go this way to go up and down. So we're going to drag this one up the top. I kind of want the coast to be right on the top there. And what I'm going to do is head over to the effects panel, so it's here. If the effects panel doesn't show here for you, what you can do is go to window and then go down this little drop menu here and make sure effects is ticked. If it isn't ticked, if you click it, it will tick it for you and put it somewhere over this side. It might not be in the exact same order that you see here, but it will appear in this panel. So we're going to go to effects, and what we're going to do, we're going to type in crop. You can see there under transform, we have our crop setting. Now because you've got that clip selected, you can see the white edges. You can just double click and that will put it into the effects panel. So you can see that's now added this effect over here. So that's how we can control our crop settings. So what we're going to do is we're going to crop from the bottom to make some more room on the bottom of the screen. So again, you can just drag upwards. You can see as I just start to drag, it's going to make that clip shorter and shorter. So we're going to probably get it, again, roughly halfway. We're just kind of guessing here. It doesn't need to be perfect. So that'll do. We can change the size of this window here to maybe 50 so we can see the whole picture and make sure we've got a good little scene there. So that looks quite nice as it is already. But what I'm going to do is put this clip to the left and this clip to the right. So in terms of size, what we can do is we can turn this off so we can see the other clips underneath. And you could do the same with that one as well. So toggle the track output so you can see it in the preview window. What we're going to do is take this second clip. This one is now hidden for the time being. You could even lock it as well to just make sure that you don't accidentally cut it or move it by mistake, because you'll see we cannot grab this clip once it's locked. So that's a nice tip if you've finished editing a piece of footage and you don't want to accidentally tamper with it. So keep that locked and hidden for now. So with this clip, I want the clip to be smaller, so I'm going to reduce its scale by roughly half. So we're going to put 75 in here because it's currently at 150. So that's reduced by half. And then I'm going to move it to the bottom left corner so we can see that footage nice and clear. So just simply dragging it across and position it down there. At this point, I want to make this clip come visible again so I can see roughly where that lines up. So you can see I've got a little border there, which I don't necessarily want in the middle. So I'm going to move this clip up ever so slightly, just so that border is kind of gone. And it touches the clip nice and perfect. What we can do here to save us time on this second clip, so we don't need to reduce the size and move it over, is I'm just going to press Ctrl C on this clip highlighted. I'm going to click on this clip now and right click. Then I'm going to go up to paste attributes. That's going to copy the size, the position, all those kind of things and paste them over. And you can choose which ones you want to copy over. So we're just happy with those. Click OK. So that has now made that clip the exact same as this. So it is in the same position, which we don't want. So all we need to do is slide it across, and you can see it's there, the same size. We're just going to put that right there, and that'll do. See how there's little borders? These clips were slightly different sizes. So I'm just going to make it slightly bigger. Doesn't have to be perfect. And that'll do, just there. Just nice. So there's no black bits on the screen. It's all looking lovely together. So we can play that now, and you can see our footage is looking lovely. If you were in a position where you had quite a lot of footage to get through and you wanted to trim through it pretty quick and cut out all the fluff, if you wanted to watch it quite quickly and save yourself some time, what you can do is when you press play, if you press L, it'll play slightly quicker. Press L again, it'll go even quicker. And the more you press L, the quicker the footage will play, basically. So L, 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 is it's pretty nice and quick, and it will obviously make the audio go quick as well, so you'll get some funny sound effects there, but that's just fine. If you want the clip to play slower, then you can press J, and it'll start going backwards. So that's just one thing you can do to scrub through your tracks pretty quick. So J and L are those keybinds. J for reverse, L for quicker, and press it more and more times to go quicker in a certain direction. Works just the same for J. They're going backwards as well. There we go, another little tip for you. So what we can do now, I'm not really a fan of this footage just being straight up to the edge of each other, touching each other, so we're going to make it stand out a little bit more. And one way you can do that is just to add a rectangle as another layer. So you can see here the rectangle tool, we can select that, and all we can do is just drag on top of our footage and create a bit of a slim rectangle to serve as a border. We can go into the graphic, we can change the colour of this. So here you'll see the controls for that essential graphic there. So shape 1, which is what our layer is called, we're just going to change the fill to a different colour. So because it's C, we're going to go with like a nice cool blue colour. It's not going to look great, it's going to look like some footage off, you know, some cheesy old holiday commercial, but there we go, we'll take it, just to show you guys the technique. And as with the other things, you can change the scale of this as well. So if you click on that graphic and go to Effect Controls, we can change the scale to make this chunkier or narrower, and that's that. What we'll do to copy it, we will press Alt, and then we will click on our layer and simply drag up, and it will create another copy. So that's Alt, click on the layer, and it will make another copy. So we can just delete that one that we don't need. So we've got 2 layers of this now on top of each other. So if we rotate this bar 90 degrees, so rotation 90, that bar will now face the other way, and of course we don't want it cutting through the top section of the footage, so the way to simply fix that is to move the bar down. So we can go to our position and just move it down until it nicely lines up. And there you go. So you've got some nice little borders on that footage now. Again, doesn't look phenomenal, but you've learned a few little techniques there, which will serve as quite nice tools as you start your video editing journey. Okay, so now we've had a bit of play around with some actual video footage that didn't have any sound, let's take a look at the audio and how you can play around with that. So here you're now looking at the actual kind of unedited version of this video that you're currently watching right now. So you can see that I've imported these video clips onto the timeline, and they've come through with these blank kind of audio states, and this is the green section, which is the voiceover which you're currently listening to. So what I want to do is kind of tidy up this audio section of the timeline and get rid of these unwanted blue bits. So you can see when I click this, I'm highlighting all these things. These are linked together. So to get them to unlink, we can right click and click on unlink, and then we can select these and delete them from the timeline. Doing that for all these is quite tedious, so what you can do is highlight them all, and you can sort of mass unlink them. So that's going to unlink all of them. Then we can highlight these boxes and just get rid of them. So that's nicely tidied up. With this section down here, to make our lives a bit easier, we'll select all of that and just drag it up, making sure not to desync it. If you were to do this, obviously the audio would not match with the visual, so you don't want to do that. Keep that nice and synced, and that's that. Now you can see that all these clips have been chopped up. If we were to apply an effect to this one, it would not apply to these, of course. So to make your life easier and save you some time, so you don't want to be applying the same effects and tweaking all the levels for every single clip, you can again highlight them all, right click and go on Nest. And click OK, that will make them now one audio clip. So any effects you apply to the entire timeline. So that's that. You'll notice as we click on this in the essential audio, essential sound, that will pop up with these options of what we want to make this audio type be. So if it is dialogue like this is, we can click on dialogue, and then we get the option of some presets up here. So if you wanted to make it sound like a podcast voice, for example, which could be appropriate for this, you could click on podcast voice. If you wanted to make it sound like it was coming over a tannoy or an intercom in a supermarket or a store, you could do that, or in a large room. So have a play around with these settings and the ones that you want to use. Some rather weird ones on there, like locked in the trunk. I'm not sure how many times you would use that one, but there you go. Some good options to see what you want to use there. So it's a good idea once you've selected one of these is to play your footage back and see how it sounds. If you're happy with it, you can of course tweak all these levels, deselect certain things if you want to. So just have a little play around. It's probably a good idea to put some headphones on to get the real feel for how this actually sounds, because sometimes it does sound different for different people, whether they've got headphones on or not. So bear that in mind as well. If you aren't happy with what you've chosen, you can of course just clear audio type and it will go back to as it was. So let's add some music to that little fish scene that we created earlier. So now I've gone to a folder of royalty-free music that I downloaded earlier, so I'm going to select this deep house music track for this little clip here. So I'm going to simply click that and drag it into the timeline just like so. I'm going to move that over so it starts at the start of the clip, maybe just trim off the first little section there so the music starts as soon as the clip starts. And usually what tends to happen is when you import a track like this, it's super loud. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do is reduce the level of the sound. So if you go over to here, level, I'm going to click that little timeline to toggle off the keyframes, and I will discuss keyframes in a later video. Too much detail for this video really. So again, I'm going to drag this down. You can either drag it or put it down. I usually start at about -25 for any sort of background audio, that's decibels. So we'll see how that sounds. If you were to have a voiceover over this, you may go even quieter than -25. But this is one of those things that you need to play around with quite a lot and just make sure you get it right. Because of course, if the background music is too loud and you've got a voiceover, people are going to get quite annoyed if they can't really hear what you're trying to say. I'm actually going to change this to -18 because there is no voiceover on this clip, so we can get away with the music being a little bit louder. Another thing you could do if it was background music is to change this audio selection to music and then go into the presets and change it to balanced background music. Now look what happens to the audio waves here if we click on balanced background music. Once it renders, it kind of shuts them down a bit, so it naturally kind of muffles the music into the background. We'll cut this clip just to the length of what we need it for the video. There we go. And you can apply ducking, so this will duck against anything that you select. So if you did have a voiceover, you could get it to duck against the voiceover. So any dialogue clips, any other clips here that you've selected as dialogue, it would duck against those. But again, just test this. Sometimes it doesn't really work too great, so just always check your audio back. It's super important to get your audio levels nice and crisp and clear and not competing with each other. So it's difficult to hear what you're trying to say. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit silly and we're going to enter the world of sound effects. Now, I did have a folder of random sound effects that I use for some various projects. So what I'm going to do, when the fish pops up on the bottom left here, I'm going to give him a little Obi-Wan hello there sound effect. So again, I'm just going to drag that into the timeline, not like that, like that. Drag that into the timeline. And what I'm going to do now is zoom in. So if I press Alt and zoom where this mouse is, it's going to zoom to that section of the clip. If you do move your mouse somewhere else, it will zoom to where your mouse currently is. So that's a little tip for you there. So I'm going to click to where the timeline marker is and zoom into that. So I'm going to scrub across until this fish appears, so here. This is naturally where he could say hello there. Now it looks like I've luckily placed this in quite a good way. Let's have a little look.
Hello there.
There you go. So that was quite good. What we could do is time it a bit earlier maybe, so we start saying it before he pops on screen, or a bit later depending. So just scrub across, just move it across to a position that works for whatever clip you're trying to do. Again, this is pretty loud, so you might just reduce the level a little bit. So for sound effects, I normally go for around -10 decibels, but do play with it yourself and see what kind of output works best.
Hello there.
There you go, so kind of subtle, not too loud as he comes across, and that's that.
Hello there.
Sometimes you might want to overlap quite a lot of sound effects, say you're doing a kind of a meme edit. You might want to get a lot of sound effects in a short space of time, and they may overlap each other, kind of looking like this sort of fashion. This obviously would sound like chaos if we were to play this. So what you can do if you do need extra clips is you can right click on these bars over here and go on add track. So if you do it on these ones, it'll add an audio track. If you do it up here, it'll add a video track for whatever you need. Or you can simply just click and press Alt and drag a section onto a new bar, and it will just create a new bar for you there. There you go. So just as we nested the audio section before, you can also nest your video clips as well. So we're going to highlight all of these and nest them, and then we're going to just call it nested sequence 1, or you could call it fish track or awesome fish video, whatever you want to call it, and click OK. So that's now nested, so again your timeline is super neat. You can move this around, everything's going to stay as it was. What you can do if you need to edit an individual element within that nested sequence is double click on it. You'll see it'll open up a new tab here, and that's your nested sequence, so we can tweak things if you want to. You can close that down and it will go back to still being your nested sequence. So what we're going to do now is render this lovely footage. So to simply do that, you go up to File, you go to Export and Media. Then it will open this window. So you can choose your settings for rendering it. Now there are lots and lots of presets here. You can choose whatever works best for you. There are more presets down there if you want that. If you're editing a simple clip for YouTube, 1080p Full HD will work quite well. If you do want to be a Captain Fancy Pants and do it in 4K, you can go for that one there, high quality 4K. But whichever one works best for you, and it will tell you all the details of what the file size will be, for example, when you've edited it. You can choose your location and name your file, and then just simply press export and that will do. And once it's done, you can find it in the file where you selected it to go. As simple as that. Now your footage is ready to put up to YouTube or wherever you want to send it to. Send it to your friends, your mum, your grandma, whoever you want to send it to, and you can revel in your editing glory. So at this point, I do want to say a very, very big thank you to you if you have stuck it out for the whole video. I really, really hope that you have learned something from this and you got a bit of value from it. If you have, please let me know down in the comments. I'm quite excited because this is the first video on this channel. I'm planning on doing tons and tons of guides as we go forward on YouTube and slightly keeping the advancement going from beginner to advanced to expert to get you ready, feeling like a confident editor so you can make whatever your creative mind comes up with. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have liked the video, please do leave it a like. Leave me a comment down below with any sort of tips or kind of videos you would like to see in the future. And please do subscribe to the channel to support us on this content creating journey. Thank you so much, guys. Have a brilliant day, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.